Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're working on the Avalon again. And what we're going to be doing, as the title says, is we're going to be adding aftermarket fog lights to this car. So this is an XLE, which is essentially the Avalon base model. It doesn't come with any fog lights. It just comes with this blink right here and the turn signal. So I went ahead and got some $30 aftermarket fog lights that we're going to be installing in here and replacing this trim. Along with adding the fog lights to the bumper, we have to actually run a new wire harness inside with a new switch, so that way we can control it. So stay tuned. So over here, we got this fog light kit I bought on eBay for $30. You can also get a kit like this on Amazon for a very similar price, but most of these kits come with everything for a low price of $30-something. It comes with the bezels right here to replace the ones on the car already to fit the fog lights. And these are just basically OEM copies. It comes with an OEM aftermarket copy of the fog lights with halogen bulbs. I actually won't be using these. I'm gonna be using my LED ones I use on my Sienna. They're like a 3-in-1 or a 4-in-1 that includes a DRL turn signal, the fog light, and a dimming parking light. In addition to that, it comes with a new dash switch for the fog light. It comes with a wire harness with relay. It comes with screws and everything to put everything together. I'm actually going to be using some aftermarket OEM type screws that are better coated. In the past, I've tried to use these things and they corrode quickly, so I don't really like them, so I'm going to use the OEM ones I use on my Lexus. As far as instructions and everything, this kit comes with 0 instructions for install, as you can see in the box there. So doing the wiring, you're going to need to know a little bit about automotive lighting and how relays work and everything. As far as the wire harness goes, it comes in 3 different pieces. It comes with the harness that goes basically between the bulbs and plugs into the bulbs. This thing basically just has a simple chassis ground right here, and it has 1 wire that goes back to the relay right here that you pull up. Then it comes with the relay harness. The relay harness has a switch attached to it that you route inside your dash. It has the relay, and it has 2 power sources. It basically has one that goes to the battery power, and then the other one goes to ground right here. And then you have 1 accessory wire that you hook up to the car's accessory when the car is on. I noticed the switch, because I've used a similar switch in the past on my Lexus. They basically just hide the 2 yellows together. One of those yellows, I believe, is the illumination wire, and the other one is the power wire, which is this accessory wire. And then the rest of it is just the ground and then the signal to the relay to turn it on and off. So in order to do the fog lights, we actually have to remove the bumper and do everything off the car. And it also makes it easier to do the wiring and the wire management. To remove the bumper, you basically have to take apart the 2 clips that are up here and down here on the side. On the bottom of the bumper, across the front and everything, there's 10mm screws that hold the lower lining on. You need to remove all that. Up here, I believe there's a 10mm screw that goes into the fender on both sides. Up top, you actually have to take apart this panel right here, and underneath, there's actually a few clips or screws that keep the top of this thing onto the car. And once you loosen all that, you go ahead and just pop the whole bumper off in one piece. In addition, once you get it loose, you have to unplug the turn signals, so that way you don't yank that out of place. And once we do that, we can just take the whole bumper off the car. All right, quick update on taking the bumper off. So down here, you got this little clip right here. All you have to do is just turn it and then pop it out, and then you pull that peg out and it releases it. Up here is just a little Phillips plastic screw that goes into the little clip here, and that holds it. And that's really all that holds the side bumper, other than little compression clips right here that the bumper pushes into. There's really no screw up here like on the Lexus vehicles, so that's pretty easy there. I still have to do the bottom screws. I haven't done that yet. As far as the top goes, go ahead and take that whole cover off. If you didn't know, all those little push clips on there, all you do is push down on them. Once it releases the tension, it just pops right out, and then you actually have to pull the peg out when it's off the car to push it back in. So those are pretty easy, and those are very common on Lexus vehicles. These 2 clips on either side of here were really brittle. It was a little center push clip that you press down and it releases. Once you do that, they actually break, so I'm about to replace that with a new clip when I get this back together. This center one was easy to take off. These two side ones are very difficult. These are very specialty type clips I've never seen before. They actually have a little plunger and a plug that holds the top piece together, and if those break, you actually have to get new ones from the dealer because those are not common. So here's what that clip looks like. It has that little plunger up top there that goes into here, and it is part of that whole plunger part that plugs down to the bottom here. So the bottom piece is a common clip right there, but that plunger part is not common, and if you break that, you have to get it from the dealer, or you just have to do without this piece right here. So what this piece is for, it actually elevates this up, and it's for the hood stop right here, so it cushions the hood when it closes onto that spot. So yeah, if you break this thing, you have to replace it with a normal clip. You won't have that anymore. All right, now that we got everything unbolted and everything's loose now, we'll go ahead and pop the side off. So it's very easy to pop the side off. Once you get all the clips out, you just go ahead, just grab it, and then just snap it out here on the side. And it takes on that side, and then you go ahead and do it the other side, and then just pull the whole bumper off. Once we're inside, go ahead and unplug the turn signals right there on both sides, and then pull the whole bumper off. So that bumper came off pretty dang easy with all these clips and everything, much easier than Lexus vehicles. The only thing that I noticed on the side here is this thing right here. It's a quarter turn type of screw that's compression fit, but over the years I think it's just kind of come loose, so right now it doesn't hold in. I'm gonna have to go ahead and rig something once I take this all apart to keep that in better. As far as the headlight goes, there's actually 4 screws on this headlight. There's 3 up top here, and then 1 on the side that's part of this bracket also, and then the whole headlight comes off. So to install the new fog lights is pretty simple. As you can see here on the back of the bumper, actually all those screws they gave us, we didn't really need them because there's already screws back here that hold this piece on, and the fog lights actually only use 1 screw right here. The other 2 tabs actually tuck in right here on the side of the bumper, and you can reuse this screw off the piece that we're removing to actually put there if you wanted to. This one's a bit corroded compared to the other 3. On this side, this screw is still in good condition, so we could reuse that one if we wanted to. But aside from that, that's pretty simple as far as the install goes. So we'll go ahead and get the fog lights put onto here and then work on the wiring after that. So here we got the 4-in-1 LED fog lights I talked about at the beginning of the video. And this one has its own separate wiring instructions to get this thing working. So this thing I have to actually hook up to turn signal, a DRL, and a running light, which luckily, since we're down there, we already have that right next to it with the turn signal, but the DRL is the only thing I need to wire up. This thing also comes with its own set of drivers and everything down there, and more wiring harnesses, so we're gonna have to do a bunch of wiring to get this thing working. Alright, so those things came off pretty easily. You just take apart these 2 screws right here, push the tab, and then everything comes apart. I went ahead and took off the turn signals and everything. I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up, as well as clean up on the other side, the front side of the bumper, in those areas that haven't been cleaned for 9 years, and before I put it all back together. I got everything cleaned up on the back side and cleaned up as much as I could, so we'll go ahead and install the fog lights and the trim and get everything back together. Alright, first thing we want to do is put the turn signals back in. So you just go ahead and line it all up, put those things in, and then we're going to snap in the trim cover and then fit the fog light in. 2 back screws here. The top screw is the one that shares with the trim. And we want to take the right trim on this side, get it right into the clips first, and then snap the clips in. So you want to snap the back clips in and then the front clips here. Let's just snap those in place. You should be able to line up the hole here and the hole in the upper corner. And then you want to screw those screws in first. You want to get your fog light. So your fog light, this is the right side that we're working on. These things right here, they tuck into this spot, and then the back one This uses the screw there, and then you screw that in, and that's all that holds this on. So one of the things from when I installed these same fog lights on the Sienna, this back side is a little bit thicker. It's like a millimeter thicker, so I'm gonna have to trim that before I get it in here, but once I do that, it should fit right in. So just to make sure for fitment on the $30 fogs, the halogens right here, I went ahead and tested it right here, and this thing just snaps right in. So this thing's properly gapped, so it fits right there perfectly, and it lines up perfectly without any trimming. So these $30 ones fit much better than those LED ones that I bought, but oh well, I like the LED ones better just for all the features. All right, so to tuck it on this side, I actually had to grind this thing down a little bit just to get everything tucked into that side with the tabs. This thing was too thick. I remember doing the same thing for the Sienna when I had to do that, but now it tucks in, and we'll just go ahead and tuck those in, install the one screw, and it's good. So that thing tucked in pretty nicely once I trimmed it down like I said. And then we got the one screw that holds it on top. And everything looks good on the back side here. We'll flip it over and see the front now. Front side here looks really good. This thing fits much better than the Sienna as far as fitting into the hole. So everything looks nice, no gaps. Everything looks OEM right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish the other side off camera, and then we get this thing all wired up. All right, so I've been playing around with the switch. So if you look at the back of the switch, and this is pretty common for these universal fog light switches for all these aftermarket kits. So the blue wire triggers the relay right here. Then the yellow wire right there goes to power or accessory power in the car, turn it on and off. So you could hook this up to your headlights, your parking lights, or just switch power so it stays on, and you can control your fog lights whenever you want. And then over here, there's another yellow wire on a particular switch. On other switches, it might be like a green wire or a different color, and that's the illumination. And the ground for that is also the illumination right there. And I tested this thing out with my little power supply here, and this thing is like a freaking green that doesn't match anything in the car. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take this thing apart and swap out that LED to a white LED to match the interior. So you see there, that's that green illumination that I'm going to be changing out to white. So if I swap this thing right here to the other source, that's going to switch the relay, and we'll actually hear the relay click. So to take the switch apart, it's pretty easy. You just want to put these little tabs right here and just kind of tuck it in and remove this little cover here, and it pops right off. This was the exact same switch that was used on the IS. So once you get that out, you'll see the board in there, and you'll see everything else. You can go ahead and just try to pull this thing out. It's kind of connected to the front here with a little spring inside, so you guys gotta be careful and try to lift it out of there, out of the actual switch itself here. Pop that out, you'll see the switch right here, that yellow thing slides into that spot right there. And you want to go ahead and just pop that out, and then you have two LEDs. So you just gotta go find the two LEDs you want to replace them with and swap them out. Just to make sure, I plugged it up to power again just to check. So if you're looking at it this way, the bottom is the illumination, the top is your actual switch, because I don't have power to that thing right now, and it just stays on, so that means that's the illumination. So we'll go ahead and do that one white. All right, I got it in there. I couldn't find a blue LED that was small enough, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just leave that green LED in there. It doesn't really look that bad now that I've got the white illumination. For those drivers, for the actual LED fog lights I got, I mounted them on these little aluminum brackets that I made. I just cut a piece of aluminum just to mount them because I didn't want to screw into the car. So I'm gonna go use some studs that are on the side of the frame to mount these. So both sides of the frame on this car have these little studs right there. And I just need to go find a nut for my pile of nuts. I'm gonna just go ahead and just mount that thing right there. It'll be nice right by the fog light and everything. So this thing will look really good. Alright, so in order to run all the wiring inside the cabin for the switch, we need to access the little grommet that goes into the firewall, and we have to take apart the air box and everything right here. It's pretty easy to take apart the air box. You just gotta unplug all the hoses, and there's some 10 millimeters that hold everything down. Go ahead and just remove the top here like you're changing the filter, and then remove the pipe here and everything. So we'll go ahead and remove all that to get access to make it easier to pull that wire out of there. As far as that grommet goes, you can see it's right above the accelerator pedal. There's that wire plug that goes right there near those two chrome pipes, or those silver pipes. That's where that grommet is to the firewall. So you saw me take apart the air box, so we really just need to take apart the top of the air box and take apart the tube, and it gives us access right down here to the firewall where we get the grommet. So it's right there, right above the two heater hoses is the grommet. So we're gonna have to go ahead and fish it in with like a clothes hanger or something to get the wire through. As far as in here, trying to get the switch back here and do all the wiring and get behind there to get that grommet, we're gonna have to go ahead and drop this panel right here. In order to do that, we gotta pull apart this part. We gotta pull this out. These are all just clipped in. We just pop them out. I think there's a screw right under here and a few other screws over there, and we pop it out. There is a knee airbag right here that we have to deal with, but I think it's already in there and it's separate from this panel by just, you can see just the discoloration. So we'll go ahead and just pull all this out and see how it is. Alright, as you guys can see, taking everything apart on the interior was pretty easy. All these panels just pop open pretty easily using one of these trim poppers. Just pop it to the side and lift it. Most of these panels up here just use these pegs and they pop out. That lower panel right there, we didn't have to take out the airbag, as you can see, because that's bolted in. But the lower panel is just one Phillips on that side and a 10 millimeter over here, and we could take that out. Over here on the panel, I went ahead and put the switch in already for the fog light. As you can see, we have the anti-skid and the trunk switch over here. The way you pop out these blank covers is from the back. You squeeze these things and you pop it out, and it pops right out, and then you just pop in the new switch, and that's good right there. So as far as using the fuse or add a fuse on here, it's going to be difficult doing that because, as you can see, the fuse block is right there with the door. If we put an add a fuse, there won't be room to put that door back on, so we won't do that. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to actually multimeter these wires, figure out the illumination wire, the ground wire, and then just the accessory power wire. So I was able to multimeter both these plugs, the trunk plug, which is the gray one, and then the anti-skid or traction control, which is the black plug. And I found out right there, the two wires in the middle on the black plug, the gray and the purple, one of them is a 12 volt and the other one is a variable 0 to 6 volt for the dimming circuit. So that side we just hook up to the negative of the new switch. 12 volt side you hook up to the positive. This one is the trunk release, so it's got a ground, which is the white and black. We won't be using that one. And it has the green on the other side. That's the trunk signal. So when that thing gets grounded, it opens the trunk. So the black wire and the little hand wire in the middle, that's the dimming circuit on this side. So we could tap either one of these. So as far as the circuits that we can use to activate the relay for the fog lights, that you can use this pink one down here. So these in here are actually negative triggers. So what that means is when the car is on and the lights are off, or the fog lights are off, these are actually 12 volt. When you turn the light on or whatever on, it grounds that. It's basically like the reverse of what you would think with a positive circuit. It's much safer to do a negative circuit, especially if you're using the control modules on this car to do everything. For the actual DRL on my fog light that I'm adding, the circuit right here, which is pin 25, is like a light purple brown wire right here up top or in the middle. That's actually the DRL wire. It took me some time to research that one, but I discovered that's the signal for the DRL that activates the relay. If you just want a regular 12 volt when the car is on, this blue wire right down here on this harness by the footwell is a switch power source. I'm not sure the exact circuit it goes to, but it is a 12 volt when the car is on. So if you need that for any reason, you could tap this one too. If you were doing like a dash cam or a mirror upgrade or something where you need power. As far as the front of the car goes, I went ahead and cleaned the front bumper with some super clean just to get all that grime off of here. It makes everything easier and cleaner once we start running the loom. I'm gonna go ahead and run the the loom across the front here. So this is a plug loom for the fog lights. We'll go ahead and just run it across. I'm going to use the existing loom right there and just tape to it or zip tie to it. That way we keep it all OEM looking and clean. Alright, we got OCD OEM wiring going on over here. As you can see, I ended up using an OEM zip tie right here. I put one right here also. I ended up taping everything along here by popping the clips right here off and taping it to that harness right there to keep it OEM looking, and loomed all the way through across. Once I got over here, we went ahead and split it off. Right now I've got these two wires, which is a ground wire and the signal wire for the actual fog lights that goes to the relay. For the actual ground here, I'm gonna end up tapping a ground right here that goes down to the turn signal. And then this turn signal, I'm gonna basically tap all three wires because we need the parking light for the fog lights, the 4-in-1 fog lights I'm doing. I need the ground wire for that harness coming in right there, and then I also need the turn signal for my 4-in-1, which goes to this yellow right here. So this is getting a little bit complicated. Like I said earlier, I'm doing a lot more than just hooking up OEM style fog lights. If you were doing this OEM style, all you'll need to do is connect these two to the relay just to get power to the fog lights, but I'm doing much more than that, and I'm trying to keep it all OEM and clean. As far as the wire and signal go on the turn signal over here, so all Toyota white and black is ground. On this particular plug right here, this is the turn signal for the bumper. So the red right there on the outside is the turn signal, and the white in the middle is the parking light if you need that for any reason, for any upgrades you're doing. Over here on the passenger side, you're gonna have the same white and black as ground. The middle over here, blue, is a parking light, and then the green is a turn signal on this side. I'm gonna continue just cleaning up all this loom right here up to the fuse block, and I'm gonna go ahead and wire up all the relay stuff, pull that one wire into the cabin, and then we'll go inside the cabin and figure out the wiring inside the cabin. Under the fuse block, this power right here is a direct tap into the battery. So what I'm going to try to do is fish the wire into here, tap this 10mm nut to get the power, and just keep everything clean for the power and the relay right there. I'm gonna pull a little bit of an audible on this harness and relay that came with this kit. So after looking at it and doing some reviews, apparently this thing's not weather sealed, so it might only last a few months on this car, especially if it gets wet. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just use some of my Bosch style relays. These are potted, as you can see right there. These are weather sealed and they're gonna work much better. I'm about to use this type of harness, which is a universal Bosch type harness. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut whatever wires I need, solder them onto here, remove the wires that I don't need on here. So that yellow middle wire I don't need because that's the rested position of the relay on a 5-pin relay. So we'll go ahead and just use what we need there. So for the battery connection for my relays, most of you guys can do it the lazy way and just tap it right here onto this little bolt right here with a little ring or whatever, and just pull the power from the battery. What I'm gonna be doing is a little bit extra, but it's gonna be much cleaner. I usually try to fish the wire up through this hole right here, but it's kind of tight on this car. Battery out just to get a little bit more room. So what I may do is drill a little hole right here in this little gap. You could actually just remove this whole thing. All you have to do is undo the nut for that lug, and then there's a little clip right here on the white thing right there and over here, and it just slides right out of the little grooves that we have over here, and then we get access to it. If you want to remove the whole thing or just move everything aside, just unplug all of these and then you'll have open access to this whole area with this wire harness. So it's all modular, so it's very easy to get in and out. With this out, I can go ahead and just fish my wire up through here and then onto that lug really easily. All right, I was able to drill a little hole right there next to that wire. It's an empty spot right there where I could fish the wire up. As you can see, that was the only way I could get this wire in. Other than that, there was no way to really undo all this and try to squeeze it in. So that was the perfect solution right there. Just a little tiny hole, fish my wire through. I'm gonna go ahead and put a ring on here and then loop it all the way back here and just bolt everything down. Man, my OCD OEM wiring is just getting out of hand. Look at how clean that looked. No one would ever notice if they didn't know any better. So I put a little piece of loom there. I'm gonna go ahead, once I get it all buttoned up, I'm gonna double-sided tape right here for the fuse, and we should be good for this part. I'm gonna continue getting the rest of the relay and wiring through. So I was able to mount the relays right here with the little stud that was already here on the side right here. I went ahead and ran that loom up to here, mounted that fuse housing right here with the lid on with some double-sided tape. Hopefully it holds. It's some good 3M double-sided tape, and that's good right here for the power. I went ahead and put my clothes hanger. I took a little section of clothes hanger, pushed it through from the inside. I was able to get it out right there, so I'm gonna go ahead and just turn that over here. I'm gonna have to hook 2 wires to pull back inside. So underneath here, you can see I got the clothes hanger right there. I tried to get it to the top of the grommet. I just pushed it right through until I felt it touching metal on the other side, and I went to the other side and pulled it out. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and fish 2 wires in for the signal. So what I did was I looped this thing right here, the metal, so it makes a little loop, and then I loop the wire going the other way. And I put some electrical tape all around it to make sure it doesn't come loose. This is exactly how I pull wire inside the house. So what we're gonna do is just go ahead and go inside and pull that through and get this all the way through and cut the ends off once we're done. All right, we were able to pull that thing pretty easily through, no issues there. Once I cut it off, I'm gonna go ahead and fish it over the steering column, behind the dash and the cluster, and get it over to here where I need it on the side. So as far as the circuitry goes, what I ended up doing was I hooked up my power for the new fog lights and the new DRLs straight to the battery. In addition, for the signals for this relay, I just tapped that same power. So the relay and the coil in here are using that constant power with the fuse up here. The way I'm going to trigger it, as I showed you guys earlier, I'm going to use that DRL signal to trigger it when the car is on. As far as the fog lights go, instead of having a switch power where I turn it on and off with the car, I'm going to go ahead and just tap it into the headlight wire. So that way the fog lights only come on when the headlights are on. That way it's closer to the OEMs. I figure since I have the DRLs already, I don't need the fog lights on all the time. All right, I was able to fish everything and pull it as much as I can. So right here is where I divide up. So the blue wire is going to end up going to my new fog light switch. The green wire right here is going to go to the DRL wire over there. I decided to just go ahead and just use regular T-taps and spade connectors since it's very tight to work with right there. Under here, I'm going to go ahead and just loom everything up. Make sure everything's nice and tidy. Go ahead and connect the relays to the 2 outputs right there for the DRL and the fog lights, and we're gonna call it a day over here. All right, I was able to fish the wires through nice and clean. Got everything tucked away over here. I tucked it behind all the brake lines coming down back there, over around here, followed all the loom and just followed it all the way down here. Shared the same little spot right here under the fuse block, and everything with that power and coming around down here. So now I'm gonna go ahead and just resolder all this together and loom it up and make it all clean down here. Oh yeah, everything's nice and cleaned up, loomed up and taped up, so everything over here looks pretty much OEM. Once it gets a little bit dirtier and it doesn't look as new, no one will notice except for these aftermarket relays. All right, for this little spot right here, the factory red plunger thing and the little clips on the end of this thing all broke off, so I ended up having to trim this thing down from the original way that it went in. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna just use one of these inserts, these nylon inserts that fit right into this square, and then we're gonna go ahead and just use a regular screw and just bolt it in there on that spot. All right, I cleaned up the wire a little bit. As you can see, I went ahead and changed out the connectors. Those T-taps were garbage. They were giving too much issues with continuity, so I ended up just soldering and taping it to that wire on the inside there. I added a little pigtail off of that with a spade connector just so I can take them on and off if I need to for any reason. I cleaned everything up, I re-soldered and reheat shinked everything. We got everything set up over here. As far as the switch goes, I couldn't get the indicator to work correctly just because of the way the circuits are set up, so I'm just gonna cut the trace for that and not use that part. I'm just gonna use that as an on-off switch for now until I figure something out. Oh yeah, the front looks really good. I might have to do something about those parking lights now being orange and incandescent. I might have to convert those to LED white also with the switchback turn signal, but right now with the fog lights and everything, this thing looks bad as hell. Hey guys, thanks for joining me all the way to the end of this long video on installing those fog lights and doing all that extra wiring and making everything look OEM like I did. As you can see, the way I wired it up with the negative trigger from the low voltage body control panel, more like OEM, it's a little bit extra work and it kind of makes that indicator on that switch useless. When I find some more time, I'm gonna go ahead and try to figure out a way to get that indicator to work, but for now I'm just gonna leave it as an on-off switch like I explained in the video. If you guys need any of the products I use, whether it's the bezels, the halogen fog lights, or even those other fog lights that I have, which is the same ones I've used on my Sienna, go ahead and check out the links down in the description. If you guys found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on bell notifications to get notified every time I upload a video. For all these different DIY projects, whether it's on the cars, in the garage, or on the house, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.